y'all, and thanks for tuning back in here to another episode here on the Speedbug channel. Today we got a day focused solely on the Hypermotard, and we're gonna talk about 5 things that I actually dislike about this bike. And y'all better best believe it, there are a few things that I do dislike about this bike. And let's start and get right to it. Number 1, the first thing that I actually dislike the most about this bike has to be, I said it when I bought it, the matte finish. Now, I love it so much that when I ride it, at the same time, I hate it. Solely because it doesn't matter if you touch it just with your finger, it doesn't matter if you have gloves on, whatever the case may be. Man, I have to tell y'all, it's a bitch to keep clean. So make sure that you don't touch it as pretty as it looks, because everybody wants to come up to it and be like, oh, look at the paint, it's so nice, it's so this, it's so that. I appreciate it, thank you very much. However, they leaving some black fingerprints on it and you gotta go home and clean it. It's probably the shittiest part about having a matte finish motorcycle. Same thing as my 959 over there as well. Number 2, something I don't really care so much about this bike, and it's really something that can pretty much be adjusted because I'm sure there's the aftermarket out there, I haven't looked for it, but it's the mirrors. Not so much the jerkiness or anything like that, but because you sit so high up on this bike, and I'm not bitching about the seat in this one because I bitched about the seat on all my other bikes. This seat is actually really good. Ducati did the works on this one. You just sit so high, and it doesn't really matter where you adjust your mirrors or anything like that. You just really can't see too much out of it until you hunker down and lean forward, and then you're kind of able to see. So I just think that as stupid as it would look, if the mirrors were higher, you'd obviously be able to see it a little bit better. But, you know, form versus function, functions versus form. You know, everybody knows what looks cool isn't practical. Number 3. So, sitting here and I came to this side of the bike and it's a little bit darker on this side. Nothing in particular that I'm going to point out. But when you're riding and you're sitting in traffic or anything like that, the heat, the sides, and for some reason, you would think it would be the other side, the right side, you know, with the exhaust, but it's not. It's the left side. It seems to radiate a lot of heat. And when it's coming out and, you know, the exhaust heat is exhaling from the motorcycle and, you know, obviously just, you know, cooling off and coming out of the radiator, it all seems to somehow, I don't know, whatever it's called, but bottom line, it all somehow seems to come out from the left side. From the left side. And it can be pretty hot. No, obviously nowhere near as hot as like the Panigales or anything like that, but it is kind of a lot, but it's kind of annoying because it's only the left side and it's not the right side. So sometimes it makes like your left side is cooking and your right side's kind of cold. So that's really my only complaint really about that. Number 4. So here we go. When you start the bike and you turn it on, it's fuel injected. And it works just fine, but when the bike is cold, and if you don't let the bike warm up for like 10, 20, maybe 30 seconds or so, and give it gas, the bike will die immediately. It'll die, you have to wait for it to catch its breath, and the choke, the electronic choke and all that to enable, and then once it enables and the bike's got a little bit of heat in it, it will allow you to then proceed on down the road. Once you're going down the road and everything is fine. However, it's kind of weird because of some of the obviously other fuel injected bikes that I have, own, or anything like that. It's strange. Oh, would you look at that? Again, it's kind of a little strange because usually when you get on the bike, you just get ready to go. It doesn't matter if it's the X Diavolo, the Panigale V4, the Beamer, the 959, or the Groms. You get on them, they're on for 2-3 seconds, and you're ready to go. Now, I'm not saying that you get on it and just go wham and just crank on it and go, but I mean, the second you turn this thing on and give it gas, it'll just die. And I'm sure a lot of Ducati owners, Hypermotard owners, have experienced that, and I've talked to a few Hypermotard owners, and they've said the same thing. It's just something to do with this bike, and It is what it is. It's not the biggest thing, but when you kind of just want to get on it and go, you can't get on it and go. You have to wait, 30 seconds or so for it to warm up. And I don't really care for that. So it's not really a gripe, but it's just me being impatient. And the last thing that I really just don't care for this bike at all, as y'all already know, that I had to pay for it. Overall, the bike is pretty good. The brakes is great. The seat is great. The handlebars are pretty grippy. Overall, the bike is for a supermoto, it's really good. Where I would classify it as far as a side note and a quick review would be, it kind of is the ultimate supermoto. The best thing about it is that they shoved such a big engine in this bike. However, but because it's such a bigger motor, it's got a lot of upgraded parts that you wouldn't necessarily find on your standard dirt bike. It does come with that extra weight. So this bike, I think, weighs like 400 pounds or something like that versus your dirt bikes, your heavier ones are 250, 275. But again, those bikes have 45, 55 horsepower, where this one has well over 100. So again, you got to give a little and take a little, for what it is. But overall, I think the bike is actually really good. I really don't have any gripes about this bike. The handlebars are great. The seating position is great. And it's an ultimate hooligan bike. Obviously, I took my muffler off because this thing is way too quiet, and it sounds really good the way it is. I don't like that it's just open and just exits like that right there. So I'm going to build something and fab up something, or maybe buy like an SC Project exhaust tip to put on it just to complete it so it doesn't look completely just open in the air like that and just completely unfinished. But overall, I really think the bike is overall really good. And for what the bike is purposed and supposed to do, I think Ducati nailed it exactly right on the head. So if you're looking for a Hypermotard, make sure you go check one out. They come in white, they come in red. And I think it's a very good improvement over the last generation. And that's going to conclude it here for today's video. If you like what you saw, again, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check me out here on Instagram at The Speedbug. Same name here as YouTube. And we will see you here for another episode here on The Speedbug channel. Deuces.